Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. I hate when people do stuff that's not only stupid but dangerous and then laugh about it without learning. It's like watching people revel in their own ignorance. Not thinking for 2 seconds if they did happen to hurt themselves, that could get you fired. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. I thought it was a fancy humidifier. So I work at an older woman's clothing store, and as many clothing stores do, we have an industrial steamer to get wrinkles out of new products so they look presentable. We also have to steam the products next to the registers because we don't have enough staff to be prepping things in the back. If you've never used a steamer before, they get insanely hot. You can very easily burn yourself if you're not careful. Even just putting it 5 inches away from your skin long enough can give you a nice red mark. Now on to the story. A younger girl and her friend were browsing products near our registers while I was steaming some shirts to be put out. I noticed one of the shirts was missing a sensor, so I turned to grab a set, and while I was walking the 5 steps back, I noticed this girl making a beeline for the steamer. I swear it was almost a slow-motion accident. My brain couldn't register fast enough that the girl was reaching to grab onto the steamer's head. She held onto it for around 2 seconds before she yelped and jumped back. Oh my God, it's hot. I stood there in disbelief for a second that this girl literally just decided to grab a steamer. "Are you okay?" I said, still dumbstruck. "Yeah, I'm fine. I just thought it was a fancy humidifier." The girl and her friend turned to leave, laughing at what she just did the whole way out. Thankfully, she was fine, but I still don't know why she thought a store would have a humidifier, nonetheless reached to grab the source of the steam. Ever since, I've been super anxious when people even get close to it when it's on. And our second story. Don't tell anyone you're leaving. I once wound up working for a company because it bought up small competitors, including my employer, across multiple states and then smushed them together into one big firm with lots of clients. Each of us had different retention bonuses to stop us just walking out. The whole thing was a crap show, so the CEO appointed a new VP to lead my division. Big Boss and new HR director. Big Boss was really interested in my specialism. He told me face to face I was doing all the right things for promotion, big things, etc. But others started demanding big pay raises to stop, and Big Boss was pretty PO'd about this because it screwed up his finance metrics. He gave in a couple of times and then wrote a memo saying no pay raises were permitted outside of annual review. HR director told everyone they wanted honest opinions about what was wrong and how to fix them, then started sniping people who told the truth and blaming them for the issues. Great start. Big shock, I didn't get the promotion. A couple of insiders told me he'd just badmouthed everyone who was up for promotion to justify not offering any. I met him and said if I wasn't promoted, maybe I wasn't a good fit and should leave, but he disagreed, said I was a great asset and he'd figure something out. My manager came back with his offer. It pushed the retention bonus further into the future, added some withheld stock perks, pay rises that would build over multiple years, and Big Boss would support me for promotion next year. Basically nothing now, but maybe in the future. The shrug as my manager handed it to me said everything. Big Boss then got a surprise opportunity to make a sale personally at a client he knew and impress our CEO. We had no experience in the area, but I had a reputation as being versatile and I was available, so he asked me to head up a group of 4 contractors and make it look like a joined-up expert team from our company. I decided this was a dead end, and given that my retention bonus was due, although no idea when they would actually cut me a check, I agreed to take a similar job at an unexciting but stable competitor. I wrote Big Boss with my 2 weeks. It had been a pleasure working with him, and what did he want me to do? It was standard in our industry to get people off premises ASAP, especially when joining a competitor, so I was a bit surprised when he told me to carry on at the client and don't tell them you're leaving. Truth was, he had nobody to replace me with. Apparently, he then went to HR director and my manager and lost his crap when it turned out I never actually signed his new retention offer. He tried to blame a couple of people for telling me not to sign, which wasn't true, and upset them as well. HR director then met me for an exit interview, and as I heard, was pretty stressed because so many people were leaving and their remit was to retain staff. I told them everything was amazing and I loved the company, but this was a huge opportunity. Then they said that because I was quitting, I wouldn't be getting my retention bonus or performance bonuses. It's just industry standard, they said. I explained that the wording was very clear, I had met every requirement, and they said it didn't matter because that wasn't what the words meant, and if you want to argue terms, get an attorney. So I stayed at the client for the next 2 weeks. I told the contractors I was leaving and asked what they wanted, but they wanted to promote themselves direct with the client, so were happier if I kept out of their way. I just met colleagues for coffee and caught up on old times, talked about my new employer and would be their final straw and so on. Couple days before I was due to finish, the client lead asked me if we could help out on something. Well, I couldn't tell them I was leaving, so I replied, "Unfortunately, Big Boss has said I'm not permitted to discuss my future with you, so you'll need to ask him directly." The client immediately knew what was happening and was fuming that he'd been kept in the dark, even more when they found out no replacement had been identified. Then, as HR director had requested, I took an employment attorney friend out for lunch. She was laughing her butt off when she saw the contracts, and they were some of the worst worded she's ever seen. I was totally right. They owed the bonuses, and HR director was just hoping I gave up. She helped me draft some legal docs, tacked on a bunch of additional fees she reckoned we could argue I was owed, and I sent them off. I left the company without ever speaking to Big Boss or HR director again. I bumped into one of the contractors in a parking lot, and he told me the project had completely imploded. They replaced me with another contractor a month after I left, but by that point, they'd stopped working collaboratively and were competing with each other to win contracts direct with the client. 2 of them got terminated for performance issues, another quit, and the client decided not to continue using my old company, so took on the only remaining specialist contractor direct. I caught up with a former manager for coffee, and they said Big Boss had become increasingly paranoid about all the people resigning and started trying to run office loyalty tests to identify disloyal staff, which of course made even more people resign. Allegedly, the CEO was getting angry because the financial and sales metrics were getting worse, and the big target client he'd heard about had turned into a huge embarrassment. Eventually, I received a satisfactory offer from the company's law firm. It wasn't a big settlement, but I was happy that I'd seen it through. My attorney friend said she knew the firm and it had probably cost triple the amount I'd asked for in legal fees. I wish I could have seen Big Boss's face signing that check. I checked LinkedIn a few months later, and HR director had been terminated. One colleague still at the company said it was officially because there weren't enough permanent employees to justify them staying. Big Boss then vanished a few weeks later. His office was just emptied, and nobody spoke about him again. And our last story. Entitledparents tries to kidnap my brother and goes to jail. Meet the cast. Me equals me. Stewie equals little brother 1, 12-year-old. Tommy equals little brother 2, 3-year-old. EM, entitled mom. ED, entitled dad. EK, entitled kid. Okay, so this happened back in 2013. I was maybe 15. So Stewie's autistic, but is a very, very sweet kid, and Tommy's a preemie baby and therefore very small even at 3. Where we lived at, I was able to take them downtown so we can explore and everything. I'm very protective over my brothers. Well, we go downtown, Tommy in his stroller, and I'm holding Stewie's hand so he doesn't get lost or hurt. Now, Stewie has a special tracking bracelet that can help the police track him. Now, downtown, there's a wonderful store that has hot dogs and ice cream and everything, so my brothers and I are in there having some lunch and maybe some ice cream. Entitled mom, entitled dad, and their kid walk in. Entitled kid's about 5 or 6. Now, we just finished our lunch, so I was going to get ice cream. I waited in line, and I see EK go where my brothers are. I keep an eye on her and my brothers. Stewie's ecstatic and talking a lot, making conversation with her. But she mainly focuses on Tommy, who's starting to fall asleep in his stroller. I get to the front and looked at the menu to figure out the ice cream. Just as I was about to order, I hear a scream. I look over and saw EM was trying to take Tommy out of his stroller. I run over and yank her away. Thankfully, Tommy isn't hurt. Me. Get away from my brother! Who the hell do you think you are? EM. EK just wanted to hold him. It's not a problem. Me. Yes, it's a problem. You just tried to take my brother out. As I'm getting into it with EM, I hear Stewie make his little whining noises, usually meaning distress or danger. I look at him, then at Tommy, and ED was holding him. Me. Give me back my brother. ED. In a minute. He's adorable. EM. Learn to share. I'm starting to see red, and I'm pissed. Me. Learn to share. He's my baby brother. Now hand him back. Now. EM, I guess, doesn't like my tone because she pushed me into the table and she yanks Tommy, who's crying. Now this bee has me seeing all red. She digs into his arms and he's crying louder. I try to get him back and I'm screaming at her. Edie is holding me back from hurting EM. I manage to slam my head back into his throat and I hurriedly move and pull Tommy from her hands. I grab the stroller and move away and keep my brothers and our stuff off to the side and Tommy in his stroller. I go back to EM and Edie. I'm beyond pissed and I punch her hard, screaming in her face. I kicked Edie between the legs. You think a mama bear's bad? Wait till you see a sister bear. I'm red in the face screaming at them. They're screaming back. I'm about to go for another punch, but I'm held back. I slightly turn and I see a police officer, but not only police officer, my favorite uncle. He saw it all, was able to arrest them on charges of attempted kidnapping, child endangerment, and assault. Me, thankfully, I just got a slap on the wrist. When they were done, EK was being taken to the station so she could wait for another family member. I got her stuff and I took my brothers home. Thankfully, Tommy wasn't hurt that much, neither was Stewie. But if I ever see EM or ED, I may just punch them again. By her logic, you could have taken her kid. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.